Yes, we are live.
Yeah. So Shruti, you want to say a few words and start?
As
Or
you wish, I think, yeah, you begin. You
okay.
chair the session. Yeah.
Okay. Friends, we are back after a short break from our inaugural session. This is the first session of this 2-week refresher course for teachers and students across the country, which the Teaching Learning Center of Ramanujan College has organized. The refresher course, of course, is called Re-Energizing Research, Interdisciplinary and Transcultural Approaches to Indian Literature. But I have the privilege and the honor of introducing somebody who really is not from the field of literature or Indian literature specifically, or literature. He is Professor C.S. Sharma, who is a professor in the Shearing College of Commerce in Delhi University, is a scholar, an extraordinary scholar who has done tremendous work in the field of behavioral sciences and behavior and management. His work in finance and international finance, and of course in management studies. He has been a great friend of Ramanujan College, and he has always accepted our invitations for lectures. He has a number of lectures in our college on quantitative and qualitative research. So we thought that we could begin our refresher course with a lecture from him, because the first part of this, the title of the course is Re-Energizing Research. So we thought that it would be an interesting thing to hear from a person who really does not belong to the discipline of English studies, or for that matter, humanities and social sciences, to come and deliberate on what research is and how new tools of research can be brought into disciplines like social sciences and in English literature. So Professor Sharma today is going to talk on comprehending research, which is understanding research, comprehending research from issues to tools. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him how various issues, various topics can be handled or interrogated with the new research tools, both quantitative and qualitative, that he has immense scholarship on and his understanding. So I will not take any more of your time. I welcome all the participants across the country who have logged in now to listen to Professor Sharma's deliberations. Welcome, and welcome Professor Sharma. Welcome all my colleagues here. And we are eagerly looking forward to listening to you, Professor Sharma. Professor Sharma.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Clearly audible. There is no.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's fine.
Nothing.
All right.
It's perfectly fine.
So good afternoon to everybody. Dr. Samantha, Dr. Shruti, Dr. Rekha, Dr. Shipra Yadav, and Dr. Arzu Saha, administrators connected with Ramanujan College, and participants. Thank you very much, Dr. Samantha, for giving me this opportunity to talk to the people of your discipline regarding research. As the topic is re-energizing research, that is the topic of your FDP, and here we are going to talk about, the topic given to me is comprehending research, issues to tools. So first thing is, what is research actually? So if we talk of the word research, it simply means going deep or analyzing deeply the variables and concepts of any issue at hand. in a systematic manner. That is what research is. Idea here is now issues, concepts, variables. These are the things that have to be studied if a research has to be carried out, and they have to be carried out in a systematic manner. Systematic manner in the sense that it results in some generalizations which will be epistemologically acceptable. Now, what do I mean by saying this? I'm trying to say the following. Epistemologically means, although epistemology is the science of knowing, in this context, I would summarize the word epistemology in 3 words. What is acceptable knowledge? That is, we create, research is essentially creating acceptable knowledge. Acceptable to who? Acceptable to the scholars. That is, we all are, knowledge is already there. You have written a novel, for example. You have written a story. You have written a research article. The knowledge is already there. Or for that matter, when we speak, we are creating knowledge constantly. When we are making generalizations, we are creating knowledge constantly. But is all knowledge acceptable knowledge? That is an issue. So when we talk of comprehending research, first we have to understand the epistemology. And epistemology is a question of perspective, the paradigm. So in my lecture here, I shall deal with the paradigmatic issues concerned with understanding of research. That is one. Second aspect, and which is very important aspect, and that aspect is, in psychology, we call it conditioning. And in political language, we will call it indoctrination. It is not perspective. It is conditioning and indoctrination that we have to deal with when we talk of research. And the third thing, when we talk of research, comprehending research, is we talk about the tools that are available, diverse tools, in view of the paradigmatic issues. I should like to discuss the topic that has been given to me, comprehending research issues to tools, under 3 subheadings. First one, the interface between conditioning and research, or I would say conditioning, indoctrination and research. Number 2, I should like to take up the paradigmatic issues, the paradigms that are available, and which paradigms can be adopted by the students of literature so that there can be interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and transdisciplinary studies. The meanings of these terms was very well explained by Professor Dorairaj during the inaugural session. And of course, the third aspect would be what tools will be available and how we can make literary studies really useful to the other studies, other disciplines, and how collaborations can take place between disciplines, because most of the disciplines are working within silos. Literature doesn't understand what management demands. Management doesn't understand what literature can offer. Engineering, disciplines in engineering, whether it is computer science or mechanical engineering or IT, or it is chemical engineering or anything, aeronautics engineering, they do not know what to take from literature, whereas literature is a representation of life. And likewise, my friends, most of my friends in the field of literature, they do not know how they can contribute. So this is one thing that has to be, these boundaries have to be broken. How these boundaries can be broken with the help of these tools, and how we can really learn from each other. So to begin with, first, how conditioning takes place. I will like to do about that. Now we have, I cannot really talk to my audience because I am talking on Zoom and I have 4 persons in front of me, 5 to be precise. But I would like to put a question, and I would like the person who is managing this YouTube, I would request that the listeners who are listening to me on YouTube and this program, please reply. And the administrator is requested to find out number of yeses and nos. I'll give a question to you. This is a question I have taken from the class of a Harvard professor. And how I will use it, what is my purpose, that I will get to know once I know the answers from you. You are in a situation, I'm giving you a situation, dear friends. You are in a situation. Situation is this, that you are in control of a trolley car, which is on a ropeway. All right. And this is hurtling down from one end to another at the speed of something like 40 kilometers per hour. The trolley car is very strong and robust. It is going straight down. And suddenly you find that its brakes have failed. And you have about 1 minute to reach there. And there are 5 persons standing at the end of the ropeway. Now, it is very sure that nothing will happen to you because you are inside a very robust, strong, and very well-built steel structure, which is called the car, the rope car. Nothing will happen to you, but you are sure. And you only know inside, you have no means of communication also at the same time. And you only know that your determination of the travel is going to end in the death of 5 persons who are sitting at the end of the ropeway. You have no means of communicating to them. So my question is this, like this. You are going down, but suddenly you see that you have a means to shift your car to another route. And at the end of that route, there is only 1 person sitting. Now, I want to know, will you shift the gear and choose to kill 1 person? Or you would like to continue on the same ropeway and choose to kill 5 persons sitting at the end? I hope my question is understood. I repeat, you are in a ropeway, on a ropeway car, which is very robust, very strong. And if it collides somewhere at the end, if the brakes fail, nothing will happen to the person sitting inside. You are the person sitting inside. You are in control of the car. And you discover that the brakes have failed. And you see from a distance that there are 5 persons sitting at the end of the ropeway. And since the brakes have failed, when the car will reach the end of the ropeway, the 5 persons will certainly die. You have no means of communicating to anybody that your brakes have failed. However, there is another opportunity available to you, that you can shift the route of your ropeway to another route. And if you do that, then there is only 1 person sitting there at the end of the ropeway. And you can kill that person. Now you have a choice. Will you kill 5 or you will kill 1? I want to know the answer to this question. So the person, please write the answer in the comment box in the YouTube. And the person who can listen to me here, Rekha, Arzu Saha, Megha Sharma, Shipra Yadav, Shruti Jain, and Professor Samanta, you can also participate in this. So those of you who will go in for killing 5, not do anything. I would put it like this. You have option of A, shifting it to one person, or continue with what you are doing, taking it as the will of God. What will you do? My words can affect. If I present it in a different way, it can affect your decision. For example, if I say kill 5, kill 1, choose between the two, your decision will be different, can be different. And if I say will of God, accept will of God for 5, and do not accept will for 1, do not try to do anything, it is providence, your decision can be different. So think of all these things. Go deep into your mind and try to see what do you choose. It is 5 versus 1. Essentially, it is 5 versus 1. Yes, please. Can you raise your hands here? Shruti, Megha, Rekha.
I can,
Marzu,
before we voice our opinion, people have, like participants have started voicing their opinions on the
Very nice.
YouTube chat box. So many of them are going with 1. So I can read the number that they would change the gear. There's some who are saying that
Majority,
they will leave.
What is majority saying?
Right now, I can read more of 1s, like the way they're scrolling. They would prefer, killing 1 person and saving the 5. Yeah, many of them rather now are going with 1. Will
so
change.
far, the majority is saying 1.
Go 1.
Majority is saying 1.
Yeah, but there are 1 or 2 who have said that they will not do anything, so they will not change.
Sir, one of them has, Siddharth has said that this is an ethical choice.
Yes.
Really eliciting an answer. So he's not going to answer a question.
This is an ethical choice.
It is an ethical choice.
It is a dilemma. Actually, it is not an ethical choice. It is a dilemma. Mr. Siddharth, it is a dilemma. And you have to resolve the dilemma. How will you do it?
So Deepna is saying that, sir, this is a purely quantitative question. So yes.
And now we have like many 1s. Most of the participants would go.
Everybody's gone for 1.
1, yeah.
Going for 1?
Yeah.
Actually, yes. And what are your opinions? Can my listeners write directly? I can
There's
see.
1, sir. There's 1, Deepika, Geeta, Shankari, she's saying 5.
5. Okay.
Another person has said, I find no difference between the both.
You find no difference. Okay. Very fine.
5. Another person has said 5, since I'm not trained in shifting my way.
Okay. All right. Yes.
So one more interesting answer. This is a democratic problem.
Yeah.
Majoritarians are always right and minorities are always wrong.
Good. Very right. Yes. And what are your opinions here, sitting here? Dr. Samanta, what would you do? 5 for 1.
No, sir, I wrote, I'll go in for 1.
Going for 1. Okay. Shruti?
Probably will of the God, whatever the Almighty has decided.
Okay. All right. So, Megha Sharma?
I'd also go for 1.
1. Rekha?
Sir, it's the will of God. I have written in the chat box.
All right. So you want, it is fine. Okay. And Arzu?
I'll go for 1.
1. And Shipra Yadav?
We can go for 1, but I know I have done this one, so I have my biases with the answer because I know further problematic of your question.
You tell me.
I really should not answer.
The problem is, doesn't matter. If you think that will her voice be available to all the audience?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Shipra Yadav, come on the screen and please speak.
No. I'll just maybe give a 1-word answer, and right now, for now, would like to go with 1.
No. If you want to change, you can change. Definitely.
No, sir.
So there is also Ranbir in the group.
Okay, yes. Ranbir has joined.
Ranbir Kumar.
Yeah, I'd like to go for 1, sir.
Okay. It means you will kill 1 to save 5.
Yeah.
Right? This is a very important thing. Now, thing is that what we are talking about actually here is we are all following a very famous statement made by a philosopher called Jeremy Bentham. Shipra Yadav, am I right? Jeremy Bentham said that all acts should
Yes.
take place. It should be in such a manner which are for the greater good of greater number of people. So if we are talking of greater good for greater number of people, it means what? That a small minority can be sacrificed. Now, let us take another example. One example is this. Majority has agreed with this. And majority has agreed with the idea that for the greater good, we should have a public policy where greater good of greater number of people is supported. All right? If it is a question of saving 5 and sacrificing 1, let us sacrifice 1 and save 5. It is perfect. This is the idea of utilitarianism. We call it maximizing the utility of the people. And if we maximize the utility of the total society, then we will be happier, which is the ultimate pursuit that we are in, my dear friends. First thing. Now, I will put it in another way. For example, say, I'll put another question and I'm giving you another situation. Say, for example, it is a real situation I'm giving you. Something had happened really, but I'm giving you a choice. My question to you, listeners, kindly listen carefully. You are 3 persons sitting in a boat. Both of 2 persons of you are having families back at home. You are in a boat and boat has lost the way. The 3rd person with you is an orphan. That person has no family. That person is a young person. You are yourself, whatever be your age. You have families waiting at home, dependents. You are the sole family earner, sole earners for your family. And there are financial liabilities that you have on you and your family. Now you have lost the way. You are all non-vegetarians. Okay? You have 2 packfuls with you and you share the food. Water you are not able to share because water is not there. After some time, your supplies exhaust and 15 days have passed and there is no rescue that has come to you. The 3rd person, the orphan person, in spite of your stopping him, has drunk the seawater and therefore has fallen sick. He is not well. He could perhaps die anytime also. You people are very hungry. You have a choice now. You can kill that person, eat and survive till the rescue comes. This actually happened. This actually happened. A real situation, I'm telling you. The 2 persons with families, they discussed among themselves and they discussed this issue in great detail. And they discussed this issue that they have families. This person has no future. He's already sick. He may die after 2 days' time. And if he dies after 2 days' time, by that time we would have also fallen sick and we would die. Will it not be good that he dies 2 days before and he dies it at our own hands and we eat him? They decide, the 2 persons in the boat, in reality, this is a real story I'm telling you, they killed that person very softly, easily, and ate him. And after about 2 days' time, when they were having their breakfast, I hope you understand the breakfast. when they were having their breakfast, a ship came and rescued them. And they were picked up from there, and they narrated the whole account, and they were charged for murder. Right? That was it. Now, my question is not whether they should be hanged for murdering or not. My question to you is, was their decision correct? Because two were saved by killing one. My second question. Was it correct or was it wrong? If yes, first, because I cannot communicate directly to the YouTube. So please, my listeners, our viewers at the YouTube will please answer this question. Was it correct or not? And if you were correct, yes, first let me have the answer to this question. Was it correct to have done that? The guiding principle is the same. Choosing to kill one to save five. Here, choosing to kill somebody. I am giving you additional information that the person is orphan, person is sick. Maybe he can die after 2 days' time. That information you did not have when I was talking of the trolley car example to you. And still, you chose to kill that person. Of course, the method was different. And here, situation is the different, principle is the same. Was it correct to kill the second person? To kill this orphan? This is my question.
So, as of now, it's 7-1. 7 are saying it was wrong to kill. Only 1 said it's okay.
So either principle is wrong or something is wrong. 7.
Sir, they have said absolutely wrong, wrong, wrong. One more correct has come, which means wrong means they don't approve of the killing.
Okay.
It was wrong to kill. It was wrong to kill.
2 were saved. I again say that. 2 were saved. Basic fundamental principle is the same. The philosophy essentially is the same. Yes, Shiprayada, will you like to say something on this?
Wrong, they are saying, sir, we don't have any right to take life.
Okay.
No, it's not for greater good, but motivated by selfish reasons.
Okay.
Absolutely wrong, wrong. Shaji is saying, yes, the violence is correct because saving the life against life is necessary. No, says Shadik. Shivaji, no. Shivaji says, okay. Vijay says, no. This decision is incorrect.
I might have a response, sir. Ranbir.
Yes, Mr. Ranbir.
Morally, it might be incorrect.
Can you come on the screen, please?
Yeah, I would like to.
Okay.
I hope you can see me.
You're visible.
So morally, it might not be the correct thing to do, but I believe that they were in a situation where they did not had any options. I mean, they were not sure what is going to happen 2 days later. And they were in a position that the entire family could have died. And because they did not have a solution, they did not have a choice, they had to do it. I mean, we can think of moral stance maybe because we are in a situation, we are probably discussing about it right now. But it will be a different ball game when we are in that real situation. We are going to take a very different decision of what we are probably answering here. We might not answer maybe the choice of killing that person right now, but 99% or maybe 100% people would end up doing it when they will probably be in a situation like that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ranbir. Shipra, are you here? Shipra?
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, I'm here.
Yes, Shipra. Can you come on the screen?
Actually, I will not be able to come on the screen because of some
Shipra
reason.
is actually down with fever since
Oh, she's down
morning.
with fever.
Yeah, so she's really not well. That is the reason.
I'm up talking. Doesn't matter. Shipra, can you reply?
I don't know. While you were talking about this, I think I said that I have my biases. So while you were talking about utilitarianism,
let the bias come.
I couldn't think and stop thinking about the Kantian ethical principles, that how Kant's categorical imperative would look into it. So perhaps it will be wrong, killing someone, and as the participants on YouTube are saying, it is wrong killing someone who is sick, but then when you go to the practical grounds of it, then you have to take a tough choice sometimes and make a decision. So yes, I'm just
This is what actually it is. I have driven home the point, my dear friends. The thing is that one thing is very clear. There is a consequence and there is an action. There is morality of a consequence and there is morality of the action. Morality of action is that I kill the person. Morality of the action is in the boat. Morality of the action is that I switch the gear, take it to the person, kill one innocent person whose life is perfectly all right, because I want to save 5, so I kill 1. Right? That is what it is. So this is a question, this is actually a dilemma, that we are looking for maximizing the utility in terms of the consequence or of the action. Is the action wrong by itself, whatever may be the consequence, as we would say it? Or it is the context that is important? Actually, the case which I have given to you is a very famous case of Queen versus Dudley and Stephens. This is a situation. Now, my dear friends, here, when I discuss this particular dimension, this particular aspect with you, now, the manner in which I will teach these cases to you on morality, that will shape your personality. Here comes the role of the teacher. I can indoctrinate you into thinking in a certain direction. That is the power of teacher and teaching. I am not going into the merit of this case at all. But my method of teaching can influence you in a great way. For example, I give you only one principle is the same. Kill 5 or 1. Kill 1, save 5. Choice. I want to take this idea to the public policy platform. We have to construct a road. And there are some houses in between. Should we demolish those houses? One person is very, very emotionally involved with that particular house. Everybody else chooses to shift the house away. One person refuses. Only one person. Should we forcibly remove that person from there for the public good and construct the road over there, or we should not? How I presented, this is how we create conditioning in the class, and this is how we create indoctrination in the class. And we create orientations. And as we build this, then what happens? We create moral stories, theories, and supports of our own ideas and thoughts, our own ideologies. And through that, we are able to create a direction of the entire discipline. When we talk of comprehending research or doing research, the first and most important aspect is shearing yourself away, shearing yourself off the ideological weights upon you. Why I say this? I say this because it was Rabindranath Tagore who repeatedly stated that when we talk of freedom, first we have to free ourselves from the manacles of our own values. We are the biggest prisoner of our own values, belief systems. The belief systems which we have got from our peers, from our teachers, sometimes from our families also. But the research studies have demonstrated that our belief systems are most influenced by, number one, peers, number two, teachers, and number three is the family or friends. And within family, mostly parents come last. This is what the research studies show. So the first dimension, my dear friends, when we talk of comprehending research, if we want to undertake research, then what is most important is that the ideological issues should be kept completely aside. And we have to make always a choice. And the choice is this, in fact, the life per se. Every time, every minute, we have to deal with dilemmas. Dilemmas of this time. For example, if I am having a discussion with one of my colleagues, I exercise a choice. We have diametrically opposite views, and we have to exercise a choice. Should we carry this argument further and further and further? Or we should stop it at some point? A choice that we have to make. And there is a dilemma. Should I win or let the other person win? I'm giving us a very small example. That's all. Nothing else. Nothing much about it. But dilemmas have to be dissolved. We all know dilemmas cannot be resolved. It is the dilemma, as I said to you. Both are dilemmas. The situation is very clear here. For example, the situation is this, that I am in a trolley car and brakes have failed. 5 persons are going to get killed because there is a mechanical failure. And I have a choice to exercise. I can save these 5 if I choose to kill first. Should I not be charged for murder in that case? It is deliberate if I'm killing the one. This is also another perspective. So this is what actually it is, my dear friends. So, first and foremost thing about when we talk of the research, any research that we undertake, that is that it should not be guided by ideological considerations. If it is guided by, if it is guided by ideological considerations, then automatically you already have decided what kind of conclusions you will arrive at. For example, there was some discussion in the inaugural session about the feminist studies. Yes. Disadvantaged classes. Yes. There are a lot of studies going on these days. In literature, there is a lot of discussion about women. In literature, there is a lot of discussion about the disadvantaged classes in India. In literature, there is a lot of discussion about race factor in the West. And it is horrifying to read the accounts of exploitation that has taken place, that is taking place of the people in these classes. But when we look at the research in these areas, whether we look at the Dalit studies or we look at the feminist studies, women studies for that matter, or the race studies in that matter, while everybody talks about directly or indirectly of what we will call justice, to which I would like to add the word mercy also. Nobody talks about mercy. Very few people talk about mercy, the researchers. researchers talk about justice. And when they talk of justice, the justice is more in the form, takes the form of aggression towards the people who have been responsible for this, and putting everything upside down. That is, the attempt is, the anger inside is so much that the exploitation of one type should be replaced by exploitation by another type. This is the danger that occurs when we go in terms of the preconceived notions of what we call indoctrination. That is, we want to ameliorate a situation. We want to ameliorate it by replacing, I'm repeating, one exploitation of one class. We can replace it by the exploitation of the former class. What difference does it make? Are we making a better society then? Now, if the research has to go in the direction of creating a better society, then it does not have to be revengeful. Anger is justified, undoubtedly. That is right. But what I am talking about is that if the research has to be objective description. Whether it is constructivist research, I will come to the paradigmic part later on, or it is purely quantitative objective research. In both cases, a balance must be maintained that the researcher's subjectivity also needs to be objective. I'll talk about it a little later. But my point that I want to draw, or the point I want to draw home is that that we have to give freedom to the researcher. The researcher should be aware of his or her own biases also. Now, in what form the bias can come, for example? For example, Shipra Yadav just now said, she said that my reply will be in Kantian terms. Now, Kant was very clear. In Kantian system, dilemmas will not eventually exist. Why? Because he says that there is a principle, and if the principle is violated, then consequences should follow. Now, I'll give you one example of this, how Kantian system will resolve the dilemma. I'll just like to, it's a little diversion from the discussion, but I would like to still present that dilemma. Dilemma is this. There is a sage. The sage is a hermit. He's living in a forest. He wants to realize God. And this person has taken a vow that I will never tell a lie in my life. And his belief is, to which he is committed, that if he does not tell lie all his life, he will definitely get to heaven. This is what his belief system is. Okay, we are not questioning his belief system. This is the belief system. Now suddenly, one day, while he is sitting coolly and meditating in his hut, outside his hut, a person comes running who is lost breath. He is in tattered clothes. He is also hurt at a few places. Blood is oozing out at some of the places which are visible on his skin, face, hands, and so on. The person is apparently very, very scared. He is again and again looking back as if somebody was chasing him. And this person comes to the person and says that, look, sir, I am hiding behind your hut. If some people come looking for me, please don't tell them where I am, because I cannot run further, and these people will definitely kill me, and the people who are coming, they are dacoits. And without waiting for the answer from the hermit, this person runs and goes and hides himself behind the hut. After a few moments, 4 or 5 persons who are ferocious looking, having weapons in their hands, some having swords, some having axe, some having strong batons, big batons in their hands. Those people come and approach him. They see him footing, they are looking here and there, and they ask the hermit, "Sir, have you seen a person running away from here? If you have, tell us the direction in which he has gone." The hermit has a dilemma. If he says, "Yes, I know where the person is," and shows them the direction in which the person has gone, that is behind his hut, he will be on the path to heaven. Definitely, according to his belief, because he is telling the truth, and telling the truth means that he will go to heaven. But consequences, life will be lost. It is his heaven, his goal, and the life of the person. Second, he has another choice. He tells a lie. He sacrifices heaven and saves the person. What should he do? Now, in Kantian terms, it is very simple. What Shipra Yadav said just now. For Kant, there is no confusion, there is no dilemma. There is a set principle. Principle is given, which is very Western thought. Principle is that he has decided that he has to go to the heaven. So he must not swerve from that path, must not take a step which will deviate him from there. And there is no dilemma for him. And that dilemma can be resolved simply by saying, yes, there is a person sitting over there, kill him. But for an Indian, I'm talking from the point of view of Indian philosophy here, there is a dilemma. Is the life of a person more important than my going to the heaven? Can the very principles be resolved? Actually, the two replies that I received from the Indian audience here were very much expected. Shipra Yadav, you will pay attention to what I'm saying. And I would, of course, attract the attention of everybody. When I gave you the choice that kill 5, save 5, kill 1 through an act, you chose 5 and decided to sacrifice 1. But when I said, no, sit in the boat, kill the person to save yourself, there was vast majority saying, no, it was wrong. It should not have been done. Whereas principle was the same. According to Kantian principle, killing in both the directions is the same because your principle is life of 2, light of majority is more important than the life of a minority. There is no dilemma in the Western model. But in the Indian model, there is a dilemma. For us, here in India, in the Indian thought, even though I have been taught in Western tradition, all my audience sitting here have all been taught in Western tradition. None of us can claim that we have been taught in Indian tradition. Whatever Indian tradition, whatever Indian beliefs that we have got from our families, from our friends, from our teachers, from our environment. And what has come to us? What has come to us very naturally is, it is not the fundamental principle that decides what is the question of choice. Rather, it is the context, wider context that is more important for us. And that context will decide what is right, what is wrong. So, dear friends, whereas in West we have a theory of morality, in Indian philosophy we do not have a clear-cut theory of morality. We gain our glimpses, or we glean the systems of morality through the stories, through folklore, through our own literature, through how we are presenting the things. The morality per se is a universal phenomenon. Here, there is a difference of ethics and morality in the Western paradigm. But here, ethics we don't talk about, we talk only about the morality. All right? Under Western influence, we are definitely talking about ethics. However, since that is not the topic of the discussion, I'm just trying to say this, my dear friends, that the ideology or the indoctrination will lead us to pre-decided conclusions, or we will interpret our facts in a manner that we arrive at so-called desired conclusions, the conclusions which we have already made in our mind. So this is first thing, my dear friends, that we have to keep in mind when we talk of comprehending research. Abandon indoctrination. And my belief is literary studies since 1970s, since Soviet Union took over India, that was 70s more particularly, there has been a very strong movement in literary studies of India, which are of moving in a particular direction only. Instead of that particular direction, it has to be more universal towards the people, what we call the natural dharma. Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmo bhayavaha. What does it mean? It is a statement from Bhagavad Gita. Shreyan swadharmo viguna. The dharma of the self, of swa, dharma of the self is shreya, is superior, even if it is not appealing. Very interesting statement. Dharma of swa, swa means self. Dharma of self is superior, even if it is not appealing. Shreyan swadharmo viguna paradharmo bhayavaha. The dharma which is not of the swa, of my own, that is bhayavaha, that should invoke fear. Swadharme nidhanam shreya. In the dharma of self, it is better to die. In the dharma of self, it is better to die. Swadharme nidhanam shreya. Swadharme, self, in the dharma of self. Nidhanam, nidhanam means death. Shreya, shreya means superior. Death is superior in the dharma of self. Paradharmo bhayavaha. The other dharma is, it should invoke fear. Now, what is this dharma of self? Dharma of self is dharma of what is eternal in us. That is Atma. And that Atma is, dharma is only one, and that is love. Unconditional love. So, unconditional love will mean what? A justice, and justice with mercy. Or you can say justice and mercy. And what is this just mercy? You will call it just mercy. Mercy with justice. What is that? Yeah, you give mercy, you extend mercy, irrespective of whether the other person deserves it or not. We give justice, we give mercy. I'm repeating. Whether the other person deserves it or not. To deserving, we always like to give mercy. But to non-deserving, are we willing to give mercy? That is the dharma of love. And completely decoupling ourselves from the conditioning. And if that becomes the direction of the research, automatically your view will become universal. Because your research is moving towards justice, and not just justice, but a justice which is with a strong sprinkling of mercy, steeped in love for all. And if that happens, maybe I am talking of a utopian world, but if a movement is made in that direction, then then the accommodation of the diversity will be better. Otherwise, accommodation of diversity will not be there. Because if there is a reaction, if there is an action, there will always be a reaction. And to stop the reaction is what? Only love can stop the reaction. Whatever it is, just you need to, I don't have to talk much about it, but this is what it is. So when we talk of research, particularly research in social sciences, I'm not talking of merely literature. And if it has to have appeal for other disciplines also, and if you want to create better human beings and create better life, then justice with mercy, rooted deeply in love, rather than in the conditioning and indoctrination that has dominated our educational system for such a long time, has to be implemented. This is first aspect. Second aspect, my dear friends, when we talk of the comprehending research, is the paradigmatic dimension. And what is this paradigmatic dimension? The paradigmatic dimension is this. When you actually undertake research or choose to take research, you can adopt two methods. First is the quantitative method, or you can take the qualitative method. Now, what is quantitative method? Quantitative method is that adopting same methods of research that are adopted by the physical scientists, that is natural scientists. The idea essentially came from Galileo. It was the first person, I would say that he was the one who talked about the quantitative research. It was Galileo who said that the universe is written in the language of mathematics. He said that every phenomena can be studied with respect to four things: shape, size, location, and motion. Shape, size, location, and motion. These are measurable things. Now, apart from, when we look at the phenomena around, and if you look at things around, are you looking at only the shape, size, location, motion? Answer is no. Because there are senses which are operating. We have sense of sight, sound, smell, and taste. So when Galileo was asked, what about these four? So he said, these are issues of soul. The word he used was soul. These are the issues of the soul. These are not the issues of the phenomena. Because he said, he gave an example. Suppose in a forest, a tree falls. So when tree falls, what will happen? There is a motion. There are vibrations. There is a location. There is a size. There is a shape. But what about sound? A sound will be heard only when a human being is there. If the human being is not there, the question of sound is not there. Everything is measurable that it has. So he said that world can be, God has written the universe in the language of mathematics. Everything should be described, should be describable in terms of a mathematical model. And something which cannot be described in terms of a mathematical model, he would go to the extent of saying it doesn't exist. And those of you who have attended the classes in research methodology, you would have heard a sentence. Every professor of research methodology, when talks of quantitative research, directly or indirectly makes a statement. And the statement is, anything which cannot be measured does not exist. It may look atrocious to my friends from literature, but this is the reality. If you cannot measure something, it cannot be taken as to be existing. And diametrically opposite to this is another school which we call the qualitative research, where we say that research essentially is description of subjective experience of the researcher in the world of researcher. in the world of subjects. I repeat, subjective experience of the researcher in the world of subjects. That is what research is, we accept it. I've tried to summarize this in a very, very simple way, very, very easy way right now, my dear friends. That this is the qualitative research where subjectivity is acceptable. In the quantitative research, subjectivity of the researcher does not have to be there. In quantitative research, we rely on two very important things. One, measurement, and the second is observation. Observation by who? Observation, objective observation. That is, there has to be a separation between the observer and the observed. That distinction has to be there. And your phenomenon should be measurable, quantifiable, and not merely measurable, my dear friends. It should be verifiable. It should be repeatable. And it should be describable in mathematical terms. That is numerical terms, if you call it, for simplification. Need not be mathematical equation, but in numerical terms. That is there. And the studies that are taking place, for example, teaching of the language, for example, their experiments are conducted. Which method of teaching a language could be better than the other? Now, for example, a study was conducted for the purposes of teaching English language. Is the teaching of English language by natives better, or the teaching of English language by the natives of the language better? Native means, say put it like this: is the teaching of English by Indians to Indians better, or teaching by Englishmen or English teachers coming from England, natives of England, to Indians, is that better? Now, for this, an experiment was conducted. A randomized two groups were created. One group was taught by Indians. Another group of Indian students were taught by the British. And third group was taken as control group. And at the end of a semester, the performance of the students was measured. And it was found through statistical tools that the learning of grammar was better in the group which was taught by Indian teachers. And learning of pronunciation was better in the group which was taught by the British teachers. Now, this is a good generalization, scientifically proven. Now, research was done quantitative, adopting the quantitative method. Similarly, for that matter, when you are comparing the novels, say, for example, Professor Anu in the morning was talking about digital, what was that? Digital something. Do you remember, Dr. Shruti?
Digital humanity.
Digital humanity.
All right, it was digital humanity. Say you are trying to study, for example, the theme of anger management in the writings of, say, Premchand. Or you are trying to study, say, I recently have read a translation of, English translation of Premchand's stories. Premchand, a very famous Hindi writer. And I went through those, and I want to study the challenge to established values of conventional women roles in the writings of Premchand. Suppose I want to do that. And I want to follow a quantitative study of this. What method will I apply? So there are tools available. Or second is narrative analysis that you do. The qualitative research is narrative. What do you do in narrative analysis? You create a temporal sequence of the incidents episodes, and what you can say, events, episodes, and incidents. You create them sequentially, and then you analyze them, identify various characteristics of the texts which are making you reach the conclusion that you want to reach. Now here, reaching the conclusion that you want to reach is important. Here is your subjectivity. So in qualitative research, the subjective role of subjectivity is very much justified. But as far as the quantitative research is concerned, the subjectivity is not acceptable at all. There has to be a difference between observer and observed. That is, the reader, the researcher, when you are reading a particular text, then the objectivity, the variables on the basis of which you will determine the variable, I'm using the word again, the variables on the basis of which you will determine the structure of the text, those variables are decided beforehand in quantitative approach. Whereas when you are following the qualitative approach, the researcher immerses oneself in the text. And after immersing oneself, reading again and again and again, then you have your own subjective understanding of what the author is trying to say. That is, you are trying to capture the essential characteristics of the consciousness of the author. And by capturing the essential characteristics of the consciousness of the author, you then try to generalize it as the expression of the collective consciousness of the society by that author. It's a little complicated thought that I've tried to say, but I think I have communicated the idea successfully. I repeat, for example, for the understanding of the people, or maybe for my own satisfaction as a teacher, that when you immerse yourself in the text, then you try to capture the essential characteristics of the consciousness of the author in the description of either a character, incident, episode, or story. And your subjective understanding or capturing of the consciousness of the author, essential characteristics of the consciousness of the author, you try to describe in your research the collective consciousness of the society as a whole, what the society is doing. And then, as Professor Anu said in the morning, you try to give a solution. Now, when you are doing these three tasks in a qualitative research, your subjective experience of the text by immersing yourself there. And number two, performing knowingly or unknowingly the phenomenological analysis. When you are trying to capture the essential characteristics of the consciousness, you are actually performing a method called phenomenology. And when you are trying to capture the phenomenology of the text in this way, you are then projecting it for the society as a whole. And then you give a solution. Now, in this whole entire process of performing this task, if you are not objective, then all the three steps, that is a step of capturing the essential characteristics of consciousness of the author, that will be biased. It will be pre-decided. You've already decided it. Again, if you are conditioned, you are indoctrinated, the generalizations that you would make on the basis of that text about the society as a whole, that will also remain biased. And the solution that you will give again will also be biased. It will not be subtly for the greater good. You are now not only killing all the five, but also the sixth person who you could have saved. Or in other words, you have changed the gear of your motor, of your tram car, of your rope car. You have killed that person, the sixth person, and you have killed at the same time the other five also. That is the danger of the indoctrinated biased thinking. And it has to be, therefore, our roots here. Now we have to, but. I know some of you might be revolting inside when I say this. And you might be revolting, sir, how is it possible to remain completely objective? After all, in the process of de-indoctrinating ourselves, we are re-indoctrinating ourselves. When you can always challenge me, but this is called, in logic, we call it argument of limit. Argument of limit is, I am saying de-indoctrinate to yourself, and you please go to the principle of swadharma. And what is that dharma? Swadharma. Swadharma is mercy, justice with mercy, rooted in pure love. So what you are saying is, sir, you are indoctrinating us with the drug of justice with mercy and love. We are intoxicated in another kind of drug. Now you are giving me another one. Now, this is the argument. We call it, what do you call it? Quixote? Don Quixote? So, quixotism, Quixtoism.
Don Quixote.
I don't know how do you pronounce it.
Quixote. Don Quixote's.
Yes, quixotism. Quixotism. How do you pronounce it? I do not know. But it is logic to the limit where there is no answer. It is fool's argument, actually.
It'll be like fighting with imaginary windmills.
Whatever it is. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it is just like this, my dear friends. So the second dimension, as I say, would be that you have to adopt your paradigm. And the paradigm will have to be either quantitative or qualitative. I would urge, ever since literary studies have started, your discipline has remained deeply seeped and rooted in qualitative research. Why don't you start working, make a beginning in the direction of adopting quantitative methods? In management, in my area, we are overburdened with mathematics. Okay? And we want to liberate ourselves from the shackles that have been placed by the limitations that have been placed by the equations and statistical analysis. I would say your discipline, we need to liberate ourselves from that and come to qualitative. You need to liberate yourselves from qualitative, from the trap of subjectivity, and move towards objectivity. Maybe your truth will become superior truth in that case. This is second dimension that I was talking about. And third aspect, of course, relates to tools. What tools to adopt? What tools to accept? So that will depend, my dear friends, on what you want to really study. I am sure that you have been studying narrative analysis. I would say graduate to the method of narrative psychology. Maybe that you are already employing this, but when you are talking of narratives, studying narratives or narrativology, I would say graduate to narrative psychology, because the focus of narrative psychology is how narrative relates to sense making, how it makes sense. What sort of story structures do people use to describe events which make them act the way they want to act? And you use phenomenology, I'm sure, but I would say that instead of phenomenology, you can move to interpretative phenomenological analysis. In phenomenology, you study the structure of emotions and structure of experiences. But here, in interpretative phenomenological analysis, you will not only study the common structure of the experience of the narrative, but also the context and the personal meaning that is assigned in the description. So this is second tool that you can think of, that is interpretative phenomenological analysis. And yes, there is one more thing that students from literature can employ. The third tool that you can use is of discursive psychology in the analysis of texts. And this discursive psychology will consist of focusing on interaction over and above the content, and caution about inferring anything about the Caution is exercised in making inferences from the text. That is, we talk about interaction, we talk about the content, we talk about the context, and we are cautious before we infer. Caution in terms of inference means that there can be a number of inferences that can be drawn out of a given single paragraph, after a given single story, out of a given single poem. But alternative interpretations must be presented rather than committing yourself to one. We would call it discursive psychology. So these are some of the things, my dear friends, that you can adopt as tools. In summary, I would say three things I've said. From narratives, please try to proceed to narrative psychology. From phenomenology, move to interpretative phenomenological analysis. From simply capturing the ideas from psychology, go to the idea of discursive psychology, in which you will focus on interaction, context, and being cautious about making your inferences from the text that you confront and analyze. So I think I can now simply say in 3 sentences, I can conclude my discussion that when we talk of comprehending research and from issues to tools, there are 3 things that we need to understand and appreciate. Number 1, you have to de-indoctrinate yourself first, which has infested our educational system over the last 40 years or so, 40, 50 years. So that manacles of ideology have to be broken, and a universal value of justice with mercy rooted in love, pure love for all, so that we can create a better society, so that we can create a better human beings that can be implemented first. Number 2, the research, the paradigm, there are 2 major paradigms available, the quantitative and qualitative. The time has come that literature moves closer to science. Literature does not remain a source of entertainment and analysis by some people who are in their own silos, that we know everything. And it becomes closer to science. Let literature be looked upon as the science of society. Second, and third idea, as I said, is looking at new methods, quantitative methods and qualitative methods. And within quantitative methods, of course, it would require much more discussion. I'm not discussing that. But within qualitative, I would say from narratives, you can go to narrative psychology. From phenomenology, go to interpretative phenomenological analysis. And from psychology, go to discursive psychology. And yes, one thing very important, literature is something which exposes us to something which we already know. And it therefore is very dangerous. it exposes us of something of what we already know. And it can be really very, very unsettling because we know it, but we don't realize it. And literature tells us, makes us realize what we already know and what we should actually be knowing. And in the process, we can become good citizen, but at the same time, we can become very bad citizen also. We can become good process in knowing what we already know, but in knowing what we already, realizing what we already know, we can become bad also. Or maybe we can become bad and then eventually become good. For example, I was once doing a course in study of Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas. We were learning it from somebody. And we were young at that time. At the instance of my parents, we were learning it. And one of my fellow learner, after a few lessons, started abusing us as shut. Shut, like this, he would dusht. The words which were used in that particular text to denounce, which were used by the bad characters, those words he picked up and started using us. And I still remember my teacher telling me that, look, it is up to you to choose what you learn from a given text. He has chosen to learn word like dusht, shut, and a few more other abuses. And you people have chosen to learn maybe something else. Choice is yours. But today, I realize that when you read literature, it exposes you to what you already know. And it can be really unsettling. And it makes us choose. Because already making us know what we already know means that it is making us realize what we already know. And it is for us to choose out of that what is good in it, what is bad in it. Therefore, that danger always is there. And to that extent, it is very deeply connected with philosophy, because this is exactly what philosophy also does when you start studying it. But I do sincerely hope that you all will have gotten a few ideas which could open a few new dimensions, a few new vistas, a few new avenues, and a few new morsels which could act as food for thought for your future growth, development, and evolution as academics. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I'll be too willing to take.
Thank you, Professor Sharma, for a very interesting, involved, making us introspect into our own discipline and how we look at it. And if I may say, even a provocative lecture, which is making us think. Professor Sharma is a friend, and we often sit down and we have difference of opinion. And today also, when I was listening to him, there were things which were coming into my mind which I was not agreeing with him. And then immediately it came to me that, am I not agreeing with him because I have got some certain biases working within me? So thank you, Professor Sharma, for kind of warning us. But I think the most important thing that Professor Sharma said was that we need to be objective in our research. I think that's a very, very important idea. That and you know, the way he looked at how we look at Premchand was very revealing. That are we looking at something and then imposing our own ideas on it and then projecting it into the world as making it universal? This could be a very dangerous kind of thing that we could do. So I think in many ways it's a very what Professor Sharma has said is very it makes me introspect about how we do. The other aspect is that how do we bring in qualitative aspects into our research? I think that's very, very important now. Obviously, English studies across the world, and certainly in India in the last 20 years has expanded. And it has become much, much more accommodative of many, many new ideas, new things which we had initially rejected, including things like we were talking in the morning about cartoon strips, or even, advertisement or any kind of text. Cinema itself was never seen as a very important text to study, but today it has become so much central to literature studies. And not only adaptations, but otherwise also as cultural phenomena. So thank you, Professor Sharma, for kind of making us aware of the changing nature of research studies across, and how English. I also believe many of our participants may not be from our discipline; they could also be from other disciplines. But how research could be done. One interesting question which I just saw while you were speaking is, sir, the world is full of indoctrination. How to escape from it? Which I think is a very pertinent question. Sir, the world is full of indoctrination. सभी करते हैं सर. फिर हम कहाँ से क्या?
Self-awareness. Self-awareness. Awareness of the self. Self-awareness. You have to look into yourself for this. Actually, challenging yourself is the most difficult thing, because when I say self-awareness, it means that you separate your own self from yourself. It is trying to understand the difference between understanding one thing, that there is a difference between mind and soul. Like, for example, I would put it like this. Mera haath, my hand. My eye, I am not I. I am different from I. Whose I? Hand, this is my hand. But who is my? I am not hand. My mouth, my words. So who is it who is owning me? So if I look at the difference between the two, then I can challenge myself. And if I challenge myself, I will know what is wrong. Because the biggest obstruction is, in my understanding of self, is my own self. So if you are able to look at yourself objectively, and you can understand the difference between the mind and who owns your mind, and if you can establish a link between the two and integrate them, then it will be easy. It is undoubtedly very difficult. I'm sure my question the question was difficult, so answer is also a little difficult.
No, sir, your answer is very good. And the kind of comments that our participants have said, that they don't have any questions. They all feel very enlightened about what you just said. It has been eye-opener to them. There has been crystallized explanations, sharing wonderful thoughts. So I think overall, I think we all enjoyed your lecture. Shruti, are there any questions as such?
Yes, sir. I have WhatsApped you the questions. Can you just check your WhatsApp?
Okay. Just a minute. I will.
You WhatsApp me?
No, it's with
No. To Nirmala, sir.
Yeah, it's with me. There's a question. Sir, how do you call the synthesis of the observer and the observed? How do you synthesize the observer and the observed, if I may?
We don't have to synthesize the two.
Yeah.
We don't have to synthesize the observer and the observed. There has to be a distance between observer and observed. That is what actually the quantitative approach is about. In the qualitative approach, observer can be the observed also. Observer can be part, like for example, in ethnography. What do we do? Say for example, you want to study prison or the norms of the prisoners inside a prison. What do? In ethnography, you will get yourself arrested with the knowledge, with of course, with the connivance of the authorities, and have yourself placed as a prisoner inside the prison. You live with them, make your notes over there, and your subjective experience of the prisoners over there will constitute your research. That is what ethnography is. So here, the observer is part of observed. You are participant in the entire social event that is taking place. So that is permitted in qualitative research. In quantitative research, what we say is that there should be a distance between the observer and the observed. The observer should be capturing the observed phenomena in an objective, distanced manner. That is what it is.
Yeah. So one more interesting thing was will our stance go missed while being objective? What I think the participant, my fellow colleague, wants to know is, while being objective, will we miss our stance? Will we miss our?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Being objective, I think, there is so much of subjectivity in the study of literary studies or in the literary studies that it needs to be freed of that subjectivity. And some kind of objectivity needs to be brought into the play. And I don't think that it will miss a stance. No.
So I have a
what my feeling is.
So I have a question here. So what do you think is the objective of research? Why should I do research at all?
As I said right in the beginning, I said this, that the basic the research consists of going deep into an issue so as to understand the aspects of the concepts and variables with a view to making generalizations about the phenomena. We want to understand phenomena. Within literature also, you are studying a phenomenon. It could be an emotion. It could be a social practice. It could be a culture.
So it is that generalization which is often anchored on ideology. That is what is the problem.
No, sir. The process is also our...
yes, the process often is. But I think also the generalization, even after doing an objective research, when we try to make the final generalization. Yes, sir.
Ideology is like a claw. And this claw captures you at the level of, number one, the first conception of the idea, then the process, and the result that follows is actually completely seeped and colored into what that ideology will require you to conclude. It will not let you think the other way around. I mean, not other way around, it will not let you think alternatively.
I agree. I mean, that of course.
That is it.
Shruti, if we have no more questions, then maybe we can wind up.
Yeah.
जैसे एक example देता हूँ मैं जैसे कि आपको example देता हूँ. Say for example, you are studying history. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, certain incidents you are studying, say about Aurangzeb. Certain aspects of his life as a researcher you can highlight, and certain aspects you may not highlight at all. Now it is up to the researcher to highlight which ones and not to highlight which one. That is very simple. You can paint the whole thing in one way or in another way. That is it.
Yeah.
It's a very simple example I'm giving. Very simple example.
That happens.
For example, I'll give you an example. For example, there is a book on Aurangzeb by Audrey Fishkin, who has eulogized Aurangzeb to a very great extent. Now, recently, I came across an individual who had lived whose ancestors had lived in the times of Aurangzeb in Old Delhi. Aurangzeb had given a diktat that no worship will be conducted in the temples. This fellow says that my ancestor, my great-great-great-grandfather at that time, who was a priest, he brought a shivling at home and started worshipping. The soldiers came, picked him up, and took him to Khuri Darwaza, where he was hanged, and he was skinned and eventually killed. He said, it cannot go out of my psyche. How could Aurangzeb be a right person? For all his goodness. Now, incidents like this, it is one incident, but incidents like this, and the documents that are there, his orders, jizya, for example, imposition of tax on the people of the faith other than Islam. Those documents are there. You ignore them. That subjectivity is there with the researcher.
Yeah.
So what conclusion you will like to draw?
Yeah, that I agree. I mean,
That is what it is.
that's it. Yeah. Okay.
So this is what actually are some of the very, very important issues. In 9th class text of the year, I think it was 1981 or so, of NCRT, it is there. It is there in the text in NCRT. It was mentioned that Guru Gobind Singh had accepted 5,000 mansabdari in the court of Aurangzeb. Court of the king of that time. I think it was Aurangzeb, perhaps. All right. And there was a lot of protest later on by the Sikh community that it could not have happened. A person who had given his life to fighting Mughals, how could he have accepted only 5,000 mansabdari? That is the commander of the force of 5,000 soldiers. In Delhi, we have 30,000. The biggest commander used to be the one who commanded 30,000 troops. And Guru Gobind Singh Ji accepting only the commandership of only 5,000 troops. And that in the court of Aurangzeb, after having sacrificed 2 of his sons who were put inside the wall. How could that have been possible? But it was there in the NCRT book. So this kind of a thing can happen. So this is what I am saying, that de-indoctrinating yourself in that sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think we bring our session to a close. Sir, we began our session while you started speaking with about 160 participants listening to you. I think the others will look into your lecture as a recorded lecture later on when they have time. And now that we end your lecture, all the 160 are there with you, and nobody has left this session, which just shows how engrossing and how valuable the session.
All of them are listening.
Yeah, I'm sure they are all listening, and everybody's been very involved. And thank you for this wonderful opening to our refresher course, which is, I think, a perfect opening given the kind of work that we will do in multidisciplinary and in transcultural issues about Indian literature. The references you gave from the Ramayana, from the Bhagavad Gita, are all from Indian literature. So it just pins and anchors our program for the next 14 days in the right kind of frame. And I think the warning signals you've given us and the path that you've shown us in trying to tell us what kind of the approach to modern research should be has been very enlightening, and of course it's made me think. And thank you all. Thank you for this wonderful session. I'd like to thank my colleagues here, Shruti and Megha and Arzu, and Shipra, of course, seems to have listened to your lectures even before. The 2 participants who were here with me, that's Ranbir and Rekha, thank you very much. And thank you all the participants of this refresher course who have been with us, I think, for the last 4 hours or more since we began at 11:15. Thank you, Professor Sharma, for being with us. It's been wonderful listening to you. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sharma sir, I just have a small request. You are the host of the meeting. Can you just click on Shipra Yadav's name and there'll be an option called more. In that more option, can you make her the host because we need to end the meeting on YouTube.
This is
When you click on her name, there is an
We need-
option
In the participant list.
make
sir.
host.
in the participants
Yes,
list.
sir.
Yeah.
Make host. Yes, sir.
It is make host. Should I make her host?
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes.